Hey, Matt, can you guys hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, I can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, the recording has been started and well, Tony is getting on right now. So what we'll do is go ahead and do the roll call and kind of get started. I was telling them earlier that I'm going to need to do a hard cutoff tonight. This has been one of those days where it seems like so much to do. And another board I'm on changed their meeting time. It's just, I kind of got a little bit discombobulated, I don't know, confused by the day and messed up by the day. And I used to handle these things well when I wasn't working, but now that I'm working, it just seems like those things don't work so well, changing my day. But we will officially start the meeting tonight, and it's 7:02 p.m. And we'll start with the roll call. Dr. Joyce Roberts.
Present.
Dorothy Rowe Collins.
Here.
Matt Davis.
I'm here.
Antoinette Cousins.
Tony's here.
Tony's here, that's right. And Regina Fowler is here. And so Matt sent us the meeting minutes from the last meeting from July 1st, 2021. I hope everybody had a chance to look at those, and hopefully we can get a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the meetings from last meeting.
Second.
Okay, are there any questions or changes to the meeting minutes? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Aye. So the ayes have it. Okay, so tonight what I'm going to do is, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and discuss the onboarding process, because I think there's going to probably be fewer questions on that than the bylaws. So we'll go ahead and review that document and then talk about our approach on the bylaws. Okay. So again, Matt sent us another copy of the proposed onboarding, and hopefully you guys had some time to go over that. And if you have any questions, comments or things that you'd like to see on that, just let us know now, and then I'm sure Matt can kind of jot down recommendations, changes, etc.
I just had an ask under are we doing the pre-onboarding or onboarding?
We're going to take the whole document, so let's start with pre-onboarding.
Okay. I just wondered if for the public, if it would be worth having a sample of our board evaluation so that they could see all of the things that the work that we do over the course of our terms.
I mean, you're talking about the self-evaluation?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
No, I think that's excellent, actually. And do you want just the blank one, or we haven't done it yet?
No, we haven't done it. I think just having the template would really help people understand the gravity and the magnitude of the work that we do.
I think that's a great idea.
Anybody else with any comments on pre-boarding before we go on to onboarding?
I think probably also the bylaws, and then there's that
fine.
great study or that great report, the Lighthouse report about the 8 characteristics of an effective school board. I'd include that as well.
And that was the comment I had too, was the bylaws. Thank you. And you're talking about Article 9 or all the bylaws, Dorothy?
Article 9, the bylaws.
Okay,
the rest are, I would refer to as policy.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I was thinking. Article 9. Okay, great.
So just to be clear, so I'm looking at this, and I may have this a little confusing. So under pre-onboarding, I'm actually talking about school board school, which would be an actual presentation to people who may be interested in filing. And then under onboarding, that would be like a website, and those would be the documents that I had listed in there to be included on the website. And you would direct candidates who have filed to that information.
That makes sense. That's great.
So the first one would be a meeting then. Is that what you're saying, Matt?
Yeah, so now as I'm looking at this now, I can see where it's confusing. So really, this is all pre-onboarding. And then the
Okay.
first section under pre-onboarding is school board school. That's what Kansas City calls it. I kind of like that.
Um,
And yeah, however we format that, or whether it's in person or if it's just a Zoom call for anybody that wants to join. I mean, maybe with a Zoom call, you have to do it more than once. And then where it says onboarding, that's actually the list of things that I mean, you can either give them hard copies, or that's just a repository of documents that we keep electronically and we direct them to all this stuff. And you can walk through that in the
yeah.
school board school.
So on the onboarding, we would, on this information provided to be filed by candidates electronically, during this time, before they're voted on, they would get the Article 9 and they would get the board self-evaluation.
Yeah, everything
Okay.
on this list, I was just kind
Okay.
of brainstorming about what should be on that list. And then,
Okay.
you know, the only thing that would be in person would be those last 2 bullet points to provide that opportunity for candidates that filed. So the first one is for people before they file, you know, to tell them, hey,
Yeah.
it's not 1 meeting a month. It's
Yeah.
2 and really more than that.
And it's more than 2 years, it's 4 years. Mhm.
All that stuff.
Oh, is it? Okay. I would probably, I mean, I think it'd be okay, even in the pre-onboarding, to let them have that information, especially the policies, just so they'll know really
Yeah.
what they're getting into.
And that's the thought, but
Yeah.
so that's why this is confusing. So I'm ready to take that list of onboarding off.
Okay.
And this is all
Okay.
pre-onboarding.
I get it. Okay. So take that word onboarding off. Okay.
Yeah.
I understand now. Thank you. Okay, great.
So
In your presentation, like the school board school presentation, could you add a discussion of the nepotism policy and requirement and conflict of interest? Because there may be some people that need to hear that in advance of filing, if they have relatives that work for the board, or just what the statute says about conflict of interest.
yeah, and I probably should, yeah, so I can clarify that. When I said ethics, I meant all that stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's great.
No, that's all right. This is good to know. I mean, in my head, it's all that, not just the code of ethics, but you know, the MEC
Conflict
requirement, and really, it's all in sort of the legal requirement statute.
But Dorothy said kind of spell it out.
Gotcha.
Well, just I think it's all in your head, but then, you know, if you're not here to explain it, like making sure that this document makes sense to anyone that would pick it up. And in particular, I think if this is something staff is like district employees will carry out parts of it to the extent that it can be something that can be picked up and used, I think is helpful.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And man, I just had a couple questions. Now the district report card, was that the board report card or self-evaluation? That was, or something different?
So the district report card, I'm using that phrase, that's the DESE document. So that's what they would have given you in your MSBA training.
Right.
So if you go to DESE, they call it district report card, and it's sort of that whole compilation of all of those statistics.
Okay. That's what I was wondering if you meant that information or the thing. Then the other question,
add DESE to that.
Okay, great. Then the other thing is, I thought it would be good if we kind of identify who would be responsible for getting this stuff done. So when we start doing this, we are clear on who's going to provide the information. I know when I started, I think Dorothy kind of was providing everything, but maybe we could use our board secretary now that we have kind of a stable one, or some other people to maybe get this done. And maybe we could identify who can actually make sure this pre-onboarding, these pre-onboarding tasks are done. And maybe we make it the role of the district secretary if we're comfortable with that.
Yeah, and you know what I took out was in the Kansas City policy, when they talk about that information we provided to candidates, they also put in parentheses, and a resource for current board members to keep it updated, and so you always have a good reference to go to. Okay. So I think that's kind of how I was envisioning it, is, you know, however we have to help her get that information together, but that's the list of stuff, and when it changes, it keeps updating. As for the school board school, I imagined it being this committee or this committee making that assignment.
Okay.
You know, we could all break it up.
Yeah,
And I think the key is it has to be somebody who's not up for election too.
yeah. Well, then I would just maybe put the governance committee will, be the kind of party responsible for it, so that we'll know what the assignment is. And then I was reading, finally, I'm getting the MSBA dailies. Amazing. Thank you, Matt, for contacting.
Did you get 100 in one day like I did?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
But as I was reading them, I did read that they're changing the filing time for board members too. So it's a shorter period of time. And so we might want to make sure people are aware of the filing time.
And that may not apply. That may be one of those things that doesn't apply to us.
Oh, okay.
To our
Okay.
district, because since we have November elections, nobody else has November elections. Everybody else is at a municipal election in April.
Okay.
And I knew this obviously when
Yeah.
I filed, but I, for the love of me, cannot find where that information is. So I was going to either ask Mr. St. Omar or just call down to the Board of Elections, because they haven't, and they'll update it on their website closer to the election, but they don't have that up for the November election.
Right. Yeah, we probably want to put the timing on it, whether it's MSBA's or someone else, or our own, so we can know what that timing is.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't figure it out. So that's going to be important. That's why I was making it vague, because I honestly couldn't. I asked Dorothy too, and we were both like, I don't know where this information is.
So the best thing they do is like they'll put 40 days before the election or something, and then you have to count. But with them changing it, I don't know, like Matt, I don't know if it affects us or not. It's unclear to me.
Yeah.
I thought they reduced it to 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the
filing time to 2 weeks.
I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks. What the MSBA is saying, yeah, they shorten the time and put it right kind of in Christmas, but we need to find out if that time frame applies to us, especially since the November election. So
I'll look into that and see if I can find an answer.
Okay, great.
Well, and I think that the point about it being in November, that we have that strange kind of off-cycle November election that no other school district has, means like that the law can't 100% apply to us. I just don't know what they're doing about it, so I think the Board of Elections should be able to, I'm sure they'd have to ask someone though, because I'm guessing they haven't thought about it yet.
I think that part of that has to come from our attorney having a conversation with the Board of Elections, but I'm not sure. So I'll ask, start with Jeff and go from there.
I think we should have somewhere in here, the strategic plan, that they're provided the strategic plan for the board. I didn't see it in either one of the categories.
It's
in the second bullet point under onboarding
plan. Yeah, it's the transformation plan that's for the district, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so is everybody good with what we have and the changes we recommended for the pre-onboarding? And just like Matt said, the word onboarding should be eliminated, and pre-onboarding, that's where it starts, information provided to be filed.
Pre-onboarding or pre-boarding?
I think it's pre-onboarding, right?
Okay.
So all of that up to meet and greet with board members whose seats are not up for election is part of the pre-onboarding part, right, Matt?
Yes.
Okay. And then below that, you have the calendar that's kind of, it's kind of in line with what the MSBA gave us in terms of calendar, something I think we all got when we became new members of what should happen.
That reminds me, so going back, I'm sorry, to the onboarding school board school website section, could you include the calendar of presentations as the board receives them?
Board presentation calendar is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down.
Oh, sorry.
Yep,
that is exactly what I mean. That the strike through tricked me.
Are there any other questions or concerns or suggestions? Okay, so thank you, Matt. Appreciate this. Appreciate this. So what I'd like to do is kind of get the updated thing, and then at our next meeting, vote to, accept it if all the changes are there, and then vote to accept it and present it to the full board if we're okay with that. Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. Then the next topic for tonight was the shoot, wait a minute. Was the Article 9 changes. And I just want to talk about a little bit of what my goal was when I was going through them, is that, and although I read the MSBA, what I really wanted to do, because I thought that was a lot, my goal was really to say, do these apply to us today? And because although I think policies they're old for sure, as I was reading through them, I didn't think they were all necessarily outdated for us. And as I was doing the MSBAs, I was thinking, okay, I'm gonna have to make changes for this and this. It'd probably be easier just for me to change what we have now because it considers who we are and our differences already. So, so most of my changes, I didn't think there were tons of them at all. As a matter of fact, I just thought they were really brief. And I went through the comparisons of the MSBA and ours, and I just thought most of it was a lot of style differences, but not necessarily substance. But in lieu of time, if we feel like we need to, and I don't want to ask Mr. St. Omer to do it. And the reason why is that we've already assigned him a section of the bylaws for the district to go over and be responsible for. So I would like us to keep this assignment, but the question is, are we prepared to go over the changes I made? Did everybody look at them and really see there was something substantive that was different? I didn't, but maybe there are. And if we want to just go back and present what the MSBA has and present those as something we present to the full board. And I'm kind of open to any way, so.
So I just, and I didn't go through all of them, but just in sort of like a select few, like for example, the MSBA has a sample one for use of consent agendas.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually lays out, I think, pretty close to what our process actually is in terms of, how you go about removing something from the consent agenda and stuff like that, which kind of mucks us up every time we have to do it. And I think part of that reason is because we don't have a written policy on how to do it. We just sort of have, this is how we're supposed to do it. But if you read, it's BDDB, it sets out like exactly what we do. And that would just be helpful. And so I mean, I agree with you that like probably in substance, there's not that much difference, except for the ones that we have our own statute, which are pretty minimal actually. Most of these, they just have them written more clear with more detail and provides more direction to us. That was one example. I mean, there's other things like questions that I had about like, in terms of like officer elections. So our policy on the website right now says we have officer elections every June. I don't know if that's the right policy. That's not what we actually do.
Well, we amended this bylaw, I believe in March.
Right.
So I'm not sure why, like I still get the sense that the bylaws that have been amended since the transition back to elected governance have not been updated. And so there's some confusion here too. Like I noticed, I believe 9120, 9130, and 9353. I'm not sure of the numbers, but there are several of these that I remember us voting on. And so
now I did up to a certain point. I did in the list of documents I sent you guys at the end are like the ones we've updated that we've updated. Mr. St. Omar is researching any other updates prior to other than the ones I have. And I didn't send all of them because some of them I only went through half of these and didn't go through the other half because I thought we kind of take this in parts. And so in the email I sent you with the changes, it included a couple of the new ones. I think 9120 and 9130 were part of that email, and it included the new ones. And so, and 9353 is also something that we did new, but I didn't go that far in terms of the ones that I sent because I hadn't gone through those yet. And so in that email are the updated 9120 and 9130. Mr. St. Omar said that he will look for all those. Didn't seem quite sure where he was going to necessarily get them. As far as the website is concerned, and maybe I shouldn't have agreed to this, is that once they're all done and once we're good on them, then that's when the sweep of changes will be made on the website. So we have all fresh new ones posted kind of at the same time once they're approved by the full board. And then Shamika would actually go through and just kind of make that sweeping change for us on the website. And right now the goal is to get it done by the end of the year and all the new ones posted, because I know the ones that were recently changed, they are not changed at this point. But first 9120 and 9130, I did send in a package of documents, and I think I ended at 9310. So we didn't get to 9353 at all. So
Well, so 9353 is included in the ones that you sent.
9353 is okay. It probably shouldn't have been because I didn't.
But this isn't what it
was.
Oh, wait, this is very confusing.
How about we start with the documents that were sent and see if
Well, that's what I'm looking at. That's what I'm looking at.
Is that 9100? Is that the first one?
Yeah, the first one should be the 9100 organization.
So you said you've only gone through half of them?
About half of them, yeah. I've not gone through all of them. Yeah.
So I have a little bit of hesitation doing them in parts, mainly because they all need to work together.
Okay.
All of the bylaws together need to make sense, and they should be something that can be used to help guide the functioning of the board. And so if we're approving them, and if the intent is to do like a overall review of policy to approve them in parts, I'm not sure accomplishes that. And I think, seeing there is confusion over which have been updated and which haven't, and we've only done 3 or 4, kind of over a span of several years, some have been updated, and I think that contributes to the confusion. At some point we have to look at this as a whole thing.
Well, what I will say is that I feel confident, based on my conversation with Mr. St. Omar, is that the only new ones that we're going to really get are the last 3 that we updated when you were president, Dorothy. So there doesn't seem an understanding as to where they are. So what that does is give us the opportunity to just look at them all over again anyway, outside of those 3 or 2.
No. Yes, I don't expect that there were any bylaws amended by the SAB that we don't know about. That's not what I mean. What I'm saying is if we've gone through and looked at half of them, at some point we need to look at them all together as one, to view them almost as one cohesive document instead of separate individual documents, because in my view, the reason we are in this mess in the first place is because we have policies that have been put into place one at a time over time that don't speak to each other. And so I think, to Matt's earlier point, this idea of using the MSBA policies to the extent that they fit our statutory requirements, that eliminates some of this confusion for us because they're already written to work together.
So then the question becomes, and I think this question has been asked before, why aren't we using MSBA? There's a reason why we're not using them currently.
Well, some of the MSAB policies don't necessarily work well for me. Like, as I was looking at them, and I was making a choice, do I use these? And I felt like I was going to make as many changes to the MSBA's policies and maybe sometimes more changes to their policies to kind of go with what we do and what I understand who we are and how we have to operate. So I thought, well, let me just go through what we already have instead, because I think the consideration of what St. Louis Public School District is has already been considered. So I didn't want to rework the wheel. But what I am going to suggest, however, tonight, and I will say somewhat selfishly because of timing, is that in light of us wanting to do this as a whole, allow me to go through our policies along with MSBA's and kind of match what I think suits us best. If there are things that really do make more sense or formatting is better or whatever, I could present that. But if I have questions on this, to me makes more sense for St. Louis City Public School District, I'll present that as well. And then do that as a whole instead of doing half now and half later. I did half just to kind of divide up the task, but.
Could I throw out another alternative? And I'm just throwing this out there.
Mhm.
And part of this comes from, because I just, like, I guess last month I finished my MSBA training, and I asked them this question during the policy section, because I think the way it was explained why we don't use MSBA is because of our different statutes.
Mhm.
And so I asked the lawyer for MSBA when she was doing this, and they looked kind of appalled because they're saying, well, we tailor policies for school districts all the time. And they would not have any hesitation to working with us to find the policies that need to be changed. Like, for example, the vacancies one was the big one. We're the only school district where the mayor appoints vacancies. So that one would be different. Not a big deal to change, really easy. And so one thing that I think might be worth pursuing, because actually Mr. St. Omer brought it up, of using a policy service, is why don't we inquire as to how much their policy service would be? Because I mean, they have people on staff, that's all they do is school board policies under the state of Missouri law.
I
And they
suggested that
seem
early
willing
on.
and eager and capable of doing it.
Well, I suggested that for our policies, all our policies, to be honest.
Right.
And it was,
Right.
and honestly, that's what most companies do. So I suggested that very early on. Why in the world are we even embarking on this? Why don't we just pay somebody to do it, because it makes more sense. I love that idea, Matt, and I will work with, I would talk to Dr. Adams, I guess that's the one, to see if just give us some money.
Yes.
They have all this
I
extra
think it's-
money and all this overhead money from all these grants because due to COVID. I certainly they can find money, and then work with MSB to just help us do it, because to me that makes the most sense. And someone who had to do policies every single year for my job for 20 years almost, believe me, before we start updating them, we had a company to do it first, and then we changes. So I think that's ideal.
Here's another thing, not to give legal advice to the district, but going through this, there is a state statute that requires us to have our updated policies on the website. And the fact that it's been over a year that operable bylaws have not been updated on the website, we're violating state law. So, I mean, if we need to throw money at that problem, we have to throw money at that problem. And I mean, I imagine MSBA is going to be the cheapest option.
No, I think that's a great idea. And I will talk to Dr. Adams, if that's okay, Dr. Roberts, for me to talk to Dr. Adams about that. Is that okay?
Please do.
Okay,
I
I will
think-
talk to Dr. Adams.
I think-
several
I-
times.
I think before you talk to Dr.
Mhm.
Adams, to at least have something presented, so probably going to MSBA to see what the actual cost would be to do that, and then basically because from what Matt's saying, we need to really kind of expedite this, because we don't want to be in violation.
Okay, well, I'll contact MSBA then either tomorrow or Monday, find out, what we're talking about, have them give me a ballpark amount they have. And I actually don't see any reason, now this is personally, see any reason why we couldn't afford it. I mean, because the district does get the overhead money for every federal dollar they get, and that overhead money is for administrative things, and they're using it for various things. So that's the idea I love, and that's the idea I thought we should. That's the road I thought we should take early, but there was like, well, that's going to cost too much. But we'll let them do with their policies what they're going to do. But for this, let's get this expedited. And now that I know that we are violating statute by not having these updated, there's more of an urgency. So I appreciate that, Matt, for giving us that legal argument as well. So I will, by next Tuesday, I will plan to have information for you guys, and I'll just kind of, let you guys know through email what I found out and my conversation with Dr. Adams, what we find out. But I think that is definitely the route to go, because I'm gonna tell you, as I'm going through these things, I'm thinking, I think I know this. This makes sense. Oh yeah, this is what we do. I know. So let's do it that way. I appreciate
They
that.
seemed excited by the opportunity and the challenge. And
Okay,
I'm not, and I don't know if you guys are. I mean, so if they have the expertise,
Yeah.
let's let them have at it.
No, I agree. And that is my experience too. I think after that, every year, then we can update them ourselves and really kind of go over them. I think it makes it easier then.
Well, but if you get their full policy service,
Mhm.
they actually will look at the minutes of your meetings
Oh,
and then come back and recommend that, hey, it looks like you're doing this in your district. Perhaps you need to alter this policy.
do you know who did you talk to specifically?
So the person, I mean, this was just the person, God,
Okay.
I'm not gonna remember her name. You know, the really nice person, the who's the lawyer,
Yeah, I know
she's
who you're
kind of
talking
bubbly.
about. I'll talk to what's the lady who's going to be doing the training next week? What's her name?
You can start
Janet.
with Janet, and she will
Yeah,
refer you
I'll talk to
the-
Janet Tilley, and then I'll have her report, give me who to contact, and Tony, I appreciate your recommendation. Let's just find out and be equipped with all the information.
Right.
And I'll be ready to submit something to Dr. Adams. Now, I did talk to Desi, and they sent me their list of bylaws, but I mean, to me, they were just all over the place. They didn't narrow things down, and so it was very difficult to follow what they sent me. So MSBA makes a lot more sense. So if you guys are okay with that plan of action, I know we're delaying it for a while, but I think in the end, if we get this done, we'll actually get it done a lot sooner. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what I'll do is I'll report back to you guys, and then and I suspect that's gonna take a month or so, but I'm hoping that maybe we can meet again kind of to settle the onboarding document so that we can present that to the full board and get that done. So, and I know, Matt, I know you have so many meetings going on. How soon can we meet again to kind of settle the onboarding?
I mean, I think the changes that you suggested are very simple. I mean, I'll probably get that done tonight so I don't forget it.
Okay,
So
good.
I'll email that by tomorrow.
Okay. Would you guys be okay with just meeting again, just real quickly, because this won't take long. And then I promise you, we won't have to meet again until we get these bylaws settled. But would you guys be okay meeting again next week, maybe just to kind of get the onboarding done, and we could kind of process through the full board? That would be September 30th. Oh, no, we can't do it. That's the governance book review. So
I know, okay, so I know Dorothy won't be there. Is it possible that we do it like after the work session?
20, that's the 29th. or-
Tuesday?
I can stay for after the work
okay.
session, but Dorothy, how do you feel about that?
That's okay. Yeah.
Okay, okay, is that okay? What I'll do is I'll let Shamika know that we're gonna meet after the meeting and just go over this quickly to get these settled and voted on so we can present them at the next board meeting. Okay, that sounds great. Okay, thanks, Matt, for doing that so quickly. And also at that meeting, since we'll be meeting after the work session, I'll update you guys on the MSDBA's help with the policies, okay?
But which meeting are we talking about? We're saying the meeting on the 28th.
Tuesday.
Yeah, right after that, can we just have a 15, 20-minute meeting
Okay.
with governance?
And then the book study meeting, that's virtual, correct?
Right.
Yeah, on the 30th. Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, I will send Shamika a note right after we finish this call to let her know to post the meeting after Tuesday's work session. And then since we'll be in person, do we have, I guess we still have to record it. Is that something we have to do?
Don't have
Not if
to.
it's posted as avail, like, as
Okay.
open to the public.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just have it posted and we'll just get through the onboarding and we'll have one other thing accomplished. And then I'll work with you guys on a meeting with the about the bylaws once I get a grasp of how long it would take. Okay?
Great.
So I just have a question. Like, no, I have
Let's
a
start
question,
with it.
Regina. So trying to think ahead a little bit. So clearly the bylaw update, that's in progress. Are there other areas that this committee should consider like looking at or planning for or thinking ahead to, you know, just kind of like what's happening in the next 6 to 12 months that the governance committee might help kind of improve upon, or I don't know.
Yeah, something else we should, because as we finish these tasks, we'll be available to take on other tasks. So are there
Well,
other
and
things that we should think of and make sure we are addressing?
Well, and I think, you know, if the goal of this committee or purpose of this committee is to improve board functioning and facilitate like good working relationships among board members and between the board and the superintendent, board and other staff, like what are the things that we need to consider? Like, are there areas that we need to look at so, you know, we can address that or just proactively plan for?
I was thinking about that too, Dorothy, and I think there's like two things. One, I don't know how far you guys have gotten in that book, but I feel like stuff is going to come out of our book study. I know, you know, Janet's going to give us homework after that. So I kind of imagined, you know, just like the retreat and everything kind of came out of this committee, that we're going to have that homework come back here. And in terms of the next 6 to 12 months, yeah, we'll have the onboarding outline done. But, and I had mentioned this to Ms. Willis when we were talking about the legislative stuff, because she mentioned that she's like, they're going through department by department with websites. And she said, I'm going to have to come to the board. And I said, oh, that sounds like a governance committee project, because we're going to want to organize, we're going to update these bylaws. We're going to want to organize their stuff for the pre-onboarding stuff that's also going to be available to us as well. And we can sort of look at all of that stuff too. And then, you know, 6 to 12 months, once we get into April or May, depending on the filing period, we're going to have to start putting together the pre-board school board meetings and then fill out the rest of that schedule. So I think we're going to be busy.
I also think that too, one other thing I was thinking about too is that we may want to also want to kind of help as a pre-boarding process or in the onboarding process, or maybe a separate document, how to use the district website to really understand how the board operates. I think that was incredibly helpful for me to really dive into the website and understand how the district operates, and maybe work on something like that that would kind of ease the burden of board members just trying to, you know, fumble their ways through, you know, what this district is all about. So I agree there.
In one of the, did I leave that in there? Maybe.
Well, to capture what Regina said, I think a bullet around technology is appropriate just to navigate that website.
Yeah. And I guess I'm talking maybe something a little bit more detailed. Like one of the things I did, like for instance, when I got the consent agenda, something, oh my God, what is this? And that was so frustrating to me. But then to go through and really understand, you know, the procurement standards and how they really relate to federal standards and stuff like that could be very helpful to board members. And also the structure of the organization, how things are actually requested, approved, and all that's going through that process may be very helpful to us. And there are other areas in the website that I found helpful that now I think it's just ingrained on me, and I don't actually remember all of the things that I went through to go to help me understand the district and how it runs. But I would maybe like to see us maybe give some pretty good direction on using the website, what information is important, and probably ultimately including that in the onboarding process so that people
So I think on the onboarding calendar, and again, I don't have a lot of specifics on here, but I sort of envisioned that being in that meeting before your first meeting,
Okay, yeah.
So,
Okay.
I just said board docs because I was thinking, the agenda,
Yeah.
the board docs TM, going over the agenda, meeting protocol, talking about board committees, election of officers, because that's in your first meeting. And that's sort of as a general topic. All that stuff is like specific stuff, if to include that there.
Yeah, I would probably add it into the section 1, where you're doing intro to the budget and places like that, because I think one of the things that was another thing I went to the website to help me understand the budget. How has this happened? How is this working? What are the details of the budget? And really all of that stuff is there on the website. So maybe in section 2, since that's going to actually be a session, talk about how you go through the website and make that work for you as a board member. So
yeah, because Dorothy and Dr. Adams met with Tony, and I don't know what your process was, Regina. But
Similar.
before, that was before our first work session.
Yeah.
And so, but really that was all sessions, all of these sessions combined into one. That's all we had. I thought, at least in terms of giving you small doses of information, is what to expect that first work session. And the information that you just talked about, I think was very briefly went over. I mean, Dr. Adams actually got on the website and started clicking through it, but then we went on to like all these other topics like budget, strategic plan, and all that stuff. So I thought that was helpful, at least to know what we were kind of walking into in our first meeting. I mean, I've watched a lot of board meetings, but you don't know if the person being elected has ever watched a board meeting at all.
Right.
So I think I totally agree with you. My thought was to do it, that sort of stuff, before the work sessions, because you get in, you vote on and then you have to start working immediately.
Yeah, and I will say that before the board meetings would be good. So wherever you think what the placement should be would be good, as long as we do it and really help them kind of go through that website and really understand how they can help themselves, how we can help ourselves as board members by understanding the information that's out there and how we can use that information and be better board members. So the placement is less important than having it there and having it done. So I'd be satisfied wherever you place it. Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Okay, you guys, I hate to rush you guys because I know you guys are taking up your time. It's just today was just kind of a little bit more insane than I hoped it would be, but I certainly appreciate all your time and all your input too.
Regina, I'm sure we all want another long meeting.
Regina, all of us have
those
days.
You're apologizing for ending early.
And the nerve of me, someone who doesn't even work. One thing I learned about working is that your level of stress changes because you're not working and you're so used to having free time. Anything that changes that causes stress. So believe me, I am the least of all stressed amongst you guys. So I apologize for being this way, but I've adapted to this retirement life, and sometimes I have to realize that.
Well, I'll happily make
you're as busy as I act like it is. All right. So Matt has made an adjustment, a motion to adjourn. Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor for adjourning at 7:45, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right. Thank you guys. And I will post that. I will have that meeting on Tuesday posted. Okay.
See you Saturday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Saturday. See ya.
Bye.